Well, go on, everybody. Lennox here from Simple 123 Trader. This is the weekly playbook outlook for the week of April 11th to the 16th. Hope everybody is doing well and are safe. Let's take a look at what's setting up in the futures for the week. And I'm starting off with the Australian dollar. And on the weekly time frame, what I'm seeing here is a setup for a head and shoulders that's already going. It's breaking the neckline right now, and we're heading to the downside, retracing this current move. So a retrace of that move should take us back down into this area approximately. So quite a move down. So we're looking at a weak Australian dollar going into to this week. On the daily, you can see it a lot clearer. Head, shoulders, and now we're heading to the downside. So more downside to come as we break through this neckline here. So again, some weakness in the Australian dollar, and looks like that will be so. So that's the daily on the 4 hour. Yes, we're going to be continuing to the downside again. Yes, continuing. Okay, so that's Australian dollar, and let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we'll start off on the monthly. Again, we're straight up in the air with this instrument, and looking very strong. I was calling for touch or coming close to new highs for last week, and we have certainly been pushing that way and are pushing that way right now to break to those new highs again. So lots of strength in Bitcoin going into this week, and it looks like it's going to continue onwards. So it gapped up and looking very strong. So lots of resistance here, of course, but it looks like we might push through to new highs in Bitcoin imminently. Let's just see, with 61,230, and here was 61,232. So we're only off by 2 points. Not too long before we break through that this week. Okay, crude oil. Crude oil. It's also pushed up quite strongly in the last while, and has been taking a little bit of a breather. We can see it reached a very strong resistance area here, and now is pulling back a little bit. So it's possible we could get a retrace of this current move, which could take us back down, even down to this level, at least to this level on the way down. So looking a little bit weak for crude oil going into this week, and what I'm seeing here is also similar to a head and shoulders neckline area, looking like we're heading down indeed back to down to this area. So, okay, so a lot of weakness in the crude oil starting up, and if I drop to the 4 hour and look at it, indeed we're just going to be challenging these previous lows as we go into this week. Okay, let's take a look at the Canadian dollar. And it also reached resistance and is now pulling back. So on the weekly time frame, we are slowly trying to come back down. And it looks like it might want to push up one more time before. So we might get a little bit of strength in the Canadian dollar before this plays out. But right now, this move, yes, we could retrace this current move and come back into this area. Whether or not it's going to make a try for the previous highs is in question. It might just come halfway and then turn back to the downside. But we could see a little bit of strength in the Canadian dollar going into this week. Drop to the 4 hour and take a closer look. And definitely looks like that's a possibility here that we could move and break this level and maybe come back up into this area. Don't know if it's gonna assault that high. It might just be just a move, like I say, to retrace the current move back into this area. Okay, so some strength in the Canadian dollar. If, of course, if it does not break this level, then all bets are off, and we could be in fact turning to the downside. It looks like there's a bit of possibility for some strength going into this week. Okay, the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar has been in a battle. It's reached a very low support area. It's bounced, but it looks like it might want to turn back down. That's on the monthly. So dropping to the weekly, what I was seeing from last week was that we would get a push back up into this area, but we could turn around and come back down one more time. So I think that's what's happening now. We're going to see some weakness in the US dollar as the week unfolds, and you can see on the daily that that's what's setting up. We're heading back down. We're retracing this current move, and we're heading back down. So will it continue all the way down? It's totally possible that we could certainly do something like this before we continue down. Okay, so weakness in the US dollar going into this week. Okay, let's take a look at the euro. So if there's weakness in the US dollar, then there will be strength in the euro. So this on the monthly, euro has fallen quite a bit, and on the weekly, it's trying to make a comeback. So that will be in line with the US dollar weakness. Will get strength in the euro. So that's what's happening right now. The euro is pushing to the upside while the US dollar is heading down. So some strength in the euro going into this week. Okay, and the Swiss franc. Let's go to the Swiss franc. Swiss franc has dropped quite a bit as well. And on the weekly, it too is trying to make a turnaround. But is it done its move down? Maybe, maybe not. But right now it's pushing to the upside, so we have to go with that. And so there's some strength in the Swiss franc going into this week. More than likely break these highs, but we could see a pullback first. So there might be a little bit of weakness to start off, but we probably get a little bit more of some strength later on in the week. But that's where we're sitting at this point, in a little bit of an area where we could see a little bit of a pullback before we go first. Taking a look at gold. Gold on the weekly. Let me go gold on a monthly. Gold has been very high and it's dropped all the way back down. On the weekly, it's trying to make a turnaround, but I don't know if it has enough oomph to do that. On the daily, it's still looking a little bit suspect that I don't think it has enough oomph to continue to the upside. So I'm kind of looking for more weakness in gold going into this week. That's totally possible. Let's just take a closer look at it on the 4-hour. And yes, we've had quite a push to the upside, but I see a retracement happening, so we could come back down into this area before we turn around and continue the move to the upside, if at all. Okay, so a little bit of weakness in gold going into this week. Okay, let's take a look at the Japanese yen. And the monthly Japanese yen, quite the drop. On the weekly, also quite the drop. We've hit a support area and a little bit of a bounce, but that might not be for very long. We could continue down. It looks like that's what's unfolding right now. So we've had a little bit of a move up, but I don't think this has much strength to it. It's very jaggedy. So looking for further weakness in the Japanese yen into this week. Okay, the New Zealand dollar. It too has hit a peak and is pushing back down. So we're getting a retrace of the move back up. So we could see price coming way back down into this area. And on the weekly time frame, we'll see that a little closer. You can see that's what's happening. We're on our way down. So I see further weakness in the New Zealand dollar. Okay, so dropping to the daily. We see that shaping up. So this was kind of a broken head and shoulders play. You can see that I was kind of expecting more of a sideways move here, but it did not, and it just broke right through and we're dropping. So a little bit of a move. You know, the U.S. dollar weakness will give this a little bit of a move to the upside, but it'll be a fake out move, and it will continue its move to the downside. So watch for that. All right. The Mexican peso on the monthly. It's trying to push to the upside right now. You can see that from this level, it's pushing very strongly to the upside. On the daily, we have had quite a move, a little bit of a pullback, quite the move. Might get another pullback. So a little bit of weakness maybe for the beginning of the week here, but we could see further strength in the Mexican peso as the week unfolds. But short term, we could see some moves to the downside, the Mexican peso. Okay, then we look at the British pound. It too has reached a high and is coming back down on the weekly. It's very weak now. So further weakness in the British pound. It looks like that's what's happening. Even though the U.S. dollar has weakness, we see British pound with weakness, even though that's unusual. Usually they're going the opposite way. But in this case, we're sitting at a very critical point. So it looks like it's going to continue down. We could, let me just go a little further to the 4 hour. It would take a closer look. We could get an upturn, a retrace of this current move. We could get that first. That would be in line with a weak U.S. dollar. So a weak U.S. dollar would push the British pound up in the short term, and then we'll get that drop back down. So that's totally possible at this point in the start of the week. Okay, let's take a look at silver. Silver on the monthly, it's got a double top and it's looking to come back down, and that's what it's doing. So we just got to go with that. It's stair stepping down as we can see, and on the daily, it's still stair step. So I'm seeing further weakness, and we will probably be heading back down again with silver, just like with gold. So weakness in silver as well. The US 2000, Russell 2000. Let's take a look at this one on the monthly. Has been very strong, quite the move to the upside here. But now we're at a critical point, so we could see some exaggeration, some consolidation up in here before we get out of here. On the weekly, it is very much at a resistance area, and you can see these long wicks. We're just getting pulled back and forth. Looks like a head and shoulders is setting up as well. It looks like this is a possibility of a head and shoulders here, and any breach of this neckline would be an O move that could take us back down to this level or even lower. However, let's go to the daily. However, on the daily, so there's our pseudo head and shoulders setting up right there. So a breach of the neckline, which is around this area, would entail further decline. However, what I'm seeing here is a move that could propel us even at least back up to this area, anyways, in the short term. So let's just go a little closer on the 4 hour and take a closer look. And so what I'm seeing here, that this move could indeed take us up again. So this might be short-lived move to the downside, and then we get that move back up. So that's what's setting up with the Russell. We'll see if that plays out to the upside. If we breach this line and continue down, especially breaching this, then of course all bets are off and we're going to be heading down. Okay. US 30 on the monthly, super strong. So that's why I'm hesitant about the US 2000, the Russell 2000 dropping, because we have lots of strength in the US 30 and the S&P 500. So that would still bode well for the Russell 2000, because that's the mid cap stocks, and they're a lot less expensive than the big boys. So looking very strong. We've broken records, all week long last week. So still looking like it wants to push to the upside, even though we're getting a little bit of a pullback. I still see further strength going into this week. Okay, with the US 500, the S&P 500, a similar story. We're very strong to the upside, but also breaking records again this week or last week. and I can see that continuing into this week because we have a large move here that has propelled us up to this level. I don't see anything that's going to really stop this from pushing north. So lots of opportunities to continue this move to the upside. The U.S. technology sector, um, the index very strong as well, breaking to new records as well. And I don't see anything stopping this from going. So that's why I think that the Russell 2000 will also continue. So this is the move. We're hitting a resistance area, so we could see a little bit of a sideways uh, move here, but overall strength in the U.S. Group indices for the week. All right, so that's a look at what's setting up there. So if you're playing the major pairs, watch the US dollar index because that's the catalyst for the moves in those pairs. Profitable trading to everyone. Be safe. We're done now. Thank you.